Hi, everyone, and welcome to Eternal Life Counseling. So, I felt really inspired today to make this video on eternal life and counseling and how they're related. So, eternal life and psychotherapy and how these two things come together. And so, I'd like to start by saying that through the work of integrative psychotherapy and spiritual counseling, what we're really doing is walking ourselves back home to ourselves. What we're doing on any healing journey is reconnecting to the truth of who we are and calling back all of our fragments, all of our essence back into the wholeness of our heart, back into the wholeness of our true self. And so, what has happened for all of us on this journey of life is there has been so many moments where we didn't have the capacity, the skills, the support, the connection to really be present with our experience, to be present with our emotions, to be present with what is by witnessing and by feeling. And so every time that we weren't present or that we didn't feel in its entirety what has happened, that part of ourself fragments and goes into the darkness of our unconsciousness. So in IFS, in internal family systems, we call this the exiled parts of ourselves. The exiled parts of ourselves are those aspects that really did not have the capacity to process whatever happened. And so when we do the work of healing, when we reconnect to all of these parts of ourselves that have been traumatized or that had really big feelings that they didn't know what to do with, that they didn't have support with, that they didn't feel safe feeling, this part gets exiled out of our conscious awareness and into the unconsciousness. And this is so important to know because so many times on my journey as well, and I hear this again and again with clients in sessions, is this desire to know why something is happening. Why am I feeling so angry? Why am I anxious all the time? Why am I on edge? Why am I stressed? Why am I looping in this experience over and over again? Why is my relationship such a great source of suffering, or whatever the case may be? Humans generally have a really hard time understanding where these patterns are coming from, or even if you do understand where the patterns are coming from, but they keep repeating themselves and arising again and again in your experience, that is an indication that we really have to go to the original imprint, the original event where it first happened. And usually that's outside of our conscious awareness. That's within the unconscious realm. And so the more that we move through life and that we experience different events, different emotions, but we're not really there in the moment, fully witnessing as a presence that is anchored with the nervous system capacity to feel, we keep accumulating different aspects in the unconsciousness. And this accumulation can grow and grow and grow until we really decide, okay, I'm really going to look at this. I'm creating intention and inviting presence so that I can be with what is and I don't continue this accumulation of stored trauma and unfelt emotions in my body that are responsible for everything that I'm experiencing in my life. And so this is the healing journey that we work through. We build a foundation of presence through mindfulness. And we also build nervous system capacity so that we can be with what is. And little by little, we start to feel like ourselves again. The eternal life piece to all of this. The longer that we are on this journey of healing, of retrieving all parts of ourself back into the wholeness of our heart space, back into the wholeness of our being, the more that we retrieve our essence, our exiles, those parts of ourselves that are calling out for healing, whether that is through the experience of depression, anxiety, stress, relationship problems, whatever the symptom is, this is the work of calling those parts back and healing so we no longer have to be in this loop of unconsciously experiencing the same thing over and over again. And the more that we call back and retrieve our essence that we've healed, the more that we remember, the more that we embody the truth of who we are. And typically in sessions, when we're doing this work, we often track and trace back to memories from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, many, many years ago, back into childhood or infancy, but also back into previous lives. And so this isn't evidence-based, even though eternal life counseling in its application of integrated psychotherapy and spiritual counseling is very much evidence-based and regulated. We don't have scientific proof or evidence necessarily of past lives, but there are so many traditions and religions and faiths that do believe in reincarnation. There's a lot of children now who are remembering their past lives. And there's a lot of us here on the earth now who have gone on a tremendous healing journey and have remembered our past lives, have a remembrance of either some of our past lives, all of our past lives, and the very beginning of creation, where we came from, where the soul emerged. And so, the longer that we're on this journey, really doing the work of calling back our essence, retrieving our soul, retrieving all of the parts that got left behind in these really challenging moments of experience, we begin to remember more and more of our soul's journey. And in this sense, we really feel connected to this eternal life. Because if I can remember all of the journeys, all of the experiences that my soul has had, then I can come out of the illusion of dying. Even though that's something that's very real, we begin to remember beyond that. We begin to remember a continuity of our experiences, of our journeys, of everything that we've learned. And in this way, this is the bridging between the work that we're doing in each session, every time that we heal, every time that we retrieve something that's been lost along the way. We come closer to that realization that life is eternal, everlasting, ever ongoing, ever expanding. And so I just really wanted to speak to this today because from my own personal journey, from the journeys that I move through with clients, from knowing this path so intimately in my own life, in my own experiences, and feeling this is where we are all heading towards. This embodied knowing that we are here, we've always been here, and we will always be here. And this is really the connection between deep healing work and where a lot of us and the planet is transitioning to at this time. So, a lot of people in the spiritual community call this the ascension. It's like we are all in this process of ascending from this gap, this darkness of the unconsciousness, and into the light of awareness. And as much as this is a personal journey, this is very much a collective journey as well, and a planetary journey. So thank you all so much for being here. And I am sending so many blessings and prayers for your ongoing courage to descend deep into the unconsciousness, to retrieve all of who you are, and to come back home to your unified heart, to your whole self, to your true self. Please share this video if it feels inspiring. Subscribe to our channel if you'd like to receive notifications on our next video. And I am sending you so much love.